The strongest prisons on earth are not forged from iron bars or sealed behind concrete walls. They exist quietly inside the human mind. Invisible beliefs, repeated long enough, begin to feel like absolute truth, shaping the boundaries of what we believe we can or cannot do. And this raises a haunting question about human potential. Why do intelligent, talented people stop trying just moments before success becomes possible? Why do capable individuals slowly accept ordinary lives, even when greatness once felt within reach? Think back to childhood. There was a time when ambition felt limitless. We imagined conquering the world, building empires, becoming extraordinary. Yet somewhere along the way, the adult mind learned to surrender quickly, retreating at the first sign of resistance. Power can be deceptive. Sometimes the cage is only imagined. The door stands open, yet no one walks through it. And often, the surrender happens long before the real battle ever begins. Imagine a force of nature so powerful it could reshape the earth beneath its feet. A living giant, capable of overwhelming strength, yet calmly standing still as if restrained by something impossibly fragile. This contradiction creates a disturbing mystery. Why would immense power willingly remain trapped by a restraint that could be broken in a single, effortless moment? What invisible force convinces strength to behave like weakness? This is the story of the elephant and the rope, and the false beliefs that hold you back. The afternoon sun hung quietly above a dusty training ground as a traveler walked slowly past rows of resting animals. The air felt still, almost reflective, as if the place itself carried stories of discipline, patience, and silent power waiting beneath the surface. Among the animals stood a towering elephant, calm and unmoving. Its massive frame rose like a living monument, thick gray skin folding over layers of immense muscle, every movement carrying the quiet dignity of a creature built by nature to dominate the earth. This was no ordinary animal. With a single push, it could uproot ancient trees, scatter heavy stones, and carve pathways through dense forests. The ground itself would seem to tremble beneath the deliberate steps of such unstoppable strength. But then the traveler noticed something strange. Near the elephant's front leg was a thin rope tied loosely to a small wooden peg driven into the dirt. The rope looked worn, frayed, almost fragile against the enormous weight it supposedly restrained. There were no iron chains, no reinforced cages, no towering walls of steel or concrete. Nothing that could realistically contain a creature capable of tearing apart entire trees with a single pull of its strength. The traveler stood there, puzzled. Why did the elephant not simply step forward and walk away? One movement, one effortless tug, and the rope would snap instantly. Freedom stood only inches beyond its reach. Yet the elephant remained still, quietly accepting its place, and in that moment, the traveler realized something unsettling. Perhaps the rope was never meant to restrain the body at all, but the mind. Long before this giant possessed its overwhelming strength, it began life as something very different. A small elephant calf, fragile, curious, and uncertain, standing on unsteady legs in a world far larger than it could yet understand. During those early days, the trainer tied a rope around the calf's tiny leg, securing it to a wooden peg in the ground. The rope looked simple, almost harmless, yet for the young elephant it represented a boundary it could not cross. At first the calf resisted fiercely. It pulled with all its strength, twisting its body, straining every muscle, desperately trying to break free from the strange force that held it in place. But reality was unforgiving. At that age, the rope truly was stronger than the calf. No matter how hard it struggled, the restraint refused to give. Every attempt ended the same way, with exhaustion and failure. Day after day, the calf tried again. It pushed, tugged, and fought the rope with stubborn determination. Yet each effort only brought more fatigue, more frustration, and the quiet pain of another unsuccessful escape. Eventually, a subtle moment arrived. Not loud, not dramatic. The young elephant simply stopped trying. In its mind, the rope had become an absolute law of the world, an invisible wall that could never be broken. And this is where the real chain was formed. Just like many people who face rejection, early failure, or harsh criticism, the calf learned a dangerous lesson. Sometimes the greatest prison is not the obstacle itself, but the belief that it can never be overcome. Years passed, and the small calf slowly grew into a towering giant. Its body transformed into an unstoppable force of nature, powerful enough to bend trees and shake the ground with a single determined step. Yet something inside it never grew at all. The mind of the elephant remained trapped in the memory of its earliest failures. Though its strength had multiplied many times over, its belief about the rope had never changed. In its world, the rope was still impossible to break. Psychologists call this phenomenon learned helplessness. It occurs when the mind experiences repeated defeat and eventually accepts failure as permanent, even when the circumstances have completely changed. The tragedy is simple but devastating. The elephant is no longer held by the rope itself. It is held by the quiet conviction in its own mind that escape is impossible, so it never even attempts to test the truth. Human beings often live the same way. A failed business, a rejected idea, or a painful setback years ago becomes the silent rope around our own ambitions, convincing us that trying again would be pointless. We begin to call this surrender realism. We describe it as being practical, responsible, or cautious. Yet beneath those words often hides a deeper truth. We have simply grown comfortable with our limitations. And the most frightening realization of all is this: many people are not held back by the economy, their competition, or their circumstances. They are held back by a belief they accepted long ago without ever questioning it again. Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, the traveler finally asked the trainer a simple question. If the elephant was powerful enough to tear down trees, why did it remain tied to something so fragile? The trainer answered calmly, as if the truth had long been obvious. They believe they cannot break it, so they never try. Those words hang in the air like a quiet warning, because in that moment the story stops being about the elephant. It becomes a mirror, forcing every listener to look down at their own life and notice the invisible ropes quietly shaping their decisions. Think about the places where you stopped pushing forward, the dream you abandoned after one failure, the opportunity you ignored because the last attempt did not work. Just because you lacked strength then does not mean you lack power now. Inside every ambitious mind, there comes a moment of awakening, a quiet realization that living within invisible limits is far more painful than the risk of failing again. The fear of mediocrity slowly becomes stronger than the fear of trying. That realization sparks rebellion, not loud or dramatic, but deliberate and focused. A decision to stop listening to the echoes of past defeat and instead confront the present with clear, rational courage. Because the moment you question the rope, you reclaim ownership of your direction. You stop behaving like a victim of circumstance and begin acting like the architect of your own future. And somewhere in that silent shift of mindset, the giant finally moves. One steady step forward, testing the rope with the full strength it has always possessed. The moment the elephant finally pulls with its true strength, something remarkable happens. The rope snaps instantly, the wooden peg tears from the soil, and the illusion that once defined its world collapses in a single effortless motion. For the first time, the elephant realizes the truth. The barrier that once felt unbreakable was never strong enough to contain the power it had grown into. The prison existed only because it was never tested again. But freedom brings a strange feeling at first. Without the familiar boundary, the world suddenly feels vast and uncertain. The open space ahead carries both opportunity and responsibility. This is exactly what many people experience when they break their own mental limitations. Stepping beyond the comfort zone removes the old excuses. There are no ropes left to blame, only choices and actions. True freedom demands discipline. When the limits disappear, the responsibility for progress belongs entirely to you. Your focus, your habits, and your persistence must now guide the path forward. With every step taken outside the old boundary, the mind begins to change. The brain slowly replaces outdated beliefs with new evidence, proving through action that yesterday's fears no longer define today's reality. And once one rope has been broken, momentum begins to build. Confidence grows quietly until the same person who once felt trapped now possesses the courage to challenge far greater obstacles ahead. True wealth, real freedom, and lasting success are rarely created by external circumstances alone. They begin inside the mind, where beliefs quietly determine whether a person moves forward or remains standing behind an invisible boundary. Every great builder of empires understood this truth. Before they could shape industries, build companies, or transform the world, they first had to challenge the quiet limitations that once convinced them they were not capable. Within every human being exists an extraordinary reserve of untapped potential, strength that has never been tested, creativity that has never been expressed, and courage waiting patiently for permission to act. The truth is simple but powerful. Most people already possess the ability to walk away from the fears, habits, or environments that restrain them. What they lack is not power, but the willingness to question the rope. So pause for a moment and look honestly at your own life. In the quiet space of reflection, ask yourself one difficult question. What is the rope that has been quietly holding you in place? Perhaps it is a past failure, a fear of judgment, or the belief that success belongs to someone else. Whatever it is, remember that many of those limits were accepted long ago, and they may no longer be real. Are you truly trapped by reality, or simply afraid to test a fragile string? Break the rope today. Share in the comments which belief you are leaving behind, and subscribe to Success Stories as we continue building an unbreakable mind together.